Alright, welcome to my critical analysis presentation. My name is Benjamin Monroy, and the two works I'm going to be comparing are Sound of Thunder by Ray Bradbury and The Queen of Spades by Alexander Pushkin. So to begin, I want to talk a little bit about the authors. So on the left, Alexander Pushkin is the author of The Queen of Spades. He was born on May 26, 1799 in Moscow, Russia. He was actually a member of Russian royalty since his father belonged to the Pushkin noble families. He was a poet, novelist, playwright, and political activist. And in his early life, when he was a teenager, he started writing poetry, and then he got into other forms of literature. And by the time he graduated college, he was actually a recognized writer. He died extremely young, at only the age of 37, when he was fatally wounded in a duel with his wife's alleged lover. And then for the second author, Ray Bradbury, pictured on the right, he's the author of A Sound of Thunder. He was born on August 22nd, 1920. He's most known for his science fiction and fantasy works, and he's very important to science fiction. Many of his works had television, film, and comic book adaptations, and most of his works were done from 1940 to 1960, right after World War II. And his science fiction works got extremely popular, and he's credited for being one of the major reasons that the science fiction genre got so popular. And the whole basis of my critical analysis is this quote by C.S. Lewis, and the quote reads, "Literature adds to reality. It does not simply describe it, it enriches the necessary competencies that daily life requires and provides, and in this respect, it irrigates the deserts that our lives have already become." So this quote is C.S. Lewis putting into his own words the value that literature gives us and why we use it as entertainment and why we study it and why it's important to us. And this idea of it adding to reality and enriching reality is the way I looked at these works and how I compared and contrasted them and proved that they represent this quote. So basically this quote is just saying that in this way, that's the value that literature has to us. So for my thesis, the two works, A Sound of Thunder by Ray Bradbury and The Queen of Spades by Alexander Pushkin, represent the quote by C.S. Lewis because of the fantasy elements they contain, the fact that they show the consequences of our actions, and also that they stretch reality. So a little bit of background on these stories so that my argument has some more context. A Sound of Thunder was written in 1952 during the postmodern period, and this science fiction short story is about a man named Eccles who lives in the year 2055, and he pays a time travel company to take a hunting excursion back 65 million years in the past to hunt Tyrannosaurus Rex. And The Queen of Spades is set in the early to mid 1800s, and it was written in 1834, and it's about a man named Herman who's never gambled before, but he hears a story about a secret of 3 cards that are guaranteed to win in the game of Faro, which was a popular gambling game in that time period, and he becomes obsessed with finding out the secret so that he can use it to bet on and make a fortune. So the first reason that they relate to my thesis is the fact that they contain fantasy elements. So in The Queen of Spades, Herman, it is learned that the Countess, which is a member of Russian royalty, holds the secret of the 3 cards, and he sneaks into her bedroom to try and get her to tell him, but he actually scares her to death, and he doesn't feel much remorse for him scaring her to death, but at her funeral, he sees the Countess winking at him, and when he gets home that night, he sees a woman in white enter his room, and she tells him the secret of the 3 cards, and then leaves abruptly, and it's inferred that this is either the ghost of the Countess or just Herman's imagination, and he just imagines seeing her, and he makes up the sequence of cards himself, which is the 3, the 7, and the ace. And At the end of the story, it you find out that these three cards are actually the correct cards that do end up winning, but he accidentally bets on the Queen of Spades, and the Queen of Spades, the card winks at him, mocking him, which is either inferred as his imagination, he's imagining it just like he imagined the woman in white, or it really is the queen getting revenge on him for her death. And this idea of the reader not explicitly being told whether these elements are fantasy, like as being part of his imagination, or if they're real and he's really seeing a phantom woman coming into his room, if he's really seeing the countess winking at him and the card winking at him, which is has been debated in this story. And for the second story, A Sound of Thunder, the fantasy elements in this story is that it takes place both in the near future in the year 2055 and in the past 65 million years ago. And it has time travel in it, which is not proven to be possible or impossible. But this depiction of the near future theoretically could be possible. But this has to do with a lot of Ray Bradbury's work, is the speculative future and his ideas of what technology we may have in the future. And in this particular story, time travel is not only possible, but it's also sold and used to charter hunting excursions by Time Safari Company and possibly other companies and other ways of using time travel in this reality. And secondly, the consequences of our actions. So in the Queen of Spades, Herman killing the Countess is the catalyst for everything else going wrong for him in the story. So basically, it's kind of like a moral for greed. He was greedy and wanted to use the secret to get rich, and whenever he snuck into the Countess's bedroom and frightened her to death, he didn't feel any remorse and was still worried about finding out the secret. So the woman in white telling him the secret, and then that secret being true, and him accidentally betting on the wrong card, which was the Queen of Spades, and then seeing that card winking him, mocking him for betting on the wrong card and losing his fortune, is a consequence for him being greedy and frightening her to death. And in A Sound of Thunder, the directors of the hunting excursion stress the importance of not changing anything in the past, because any small detail that's changed at all could have a domino effect, and over the course of 65 million years could either slightly or completely change the present in the year 2055. So they have a levitating path over the ground. They're not allowed to stray from the path. They are only killing designated animals that are going to die within minutes of them killing them, so that there's no impact on the future whatsoever. But this moral in this story is about vanity. The only reason why he goes back 65 million years, he states, is because he wants other hunters to envy him for him killing kind of the greatest predator of all time, as the T-Rex. So he was not prepared for the hunt. He's extremely scared by the T-Rex. He runs off the path, and in doing this, he steps on a butterfly, which is also known as the butterfly effect or chaos theory, which is a whole other thing. But this is one of the science fiction elements of the story, is this idea of chaos theory, where stepping on a butterfly may change things around the world or in the future, because of the domino effect that killing that one animal has, leads into all these other events occurring that wouldn't have occurred, and then everything changed. So 65 million years in the past, he kills a butterfly, and when they return to the present, as you can see on the right, all the spelling of the English language and the pronunciation of the words is changed due to this event. And over the course of 65 million years, everything has changed in the present in the year 2055, and there's also um, a different president that's elected than the one that was previously elected in the year 2055 before they went back into the past. So the moral of the Queen of Spades is kind of greed, and the moral for A Sound of Thunder is vanity. And finally, the third reason why these two short stories represent the quote by C.S. Lewis is the fact that they stretch reality, and in this way they add to it. So for A Sound of Thunder, it's a speculation of a possible future we could have in the year 2055 where time travel is real and it's being rented and chartered out for personal use. And time travel is not known to be possible or impossible, but theoretically it could exist. And in this version of the future, it does exist. And in this way, it's stretching reality because it's not completely real because we don't have it, but it's something that could be real. And it also has the addition of chaos theory or the butterfly effect, where one small event could have a major impact across the world or over generations. And chaos theory is just a theory, but it's very plausible. So the addition of that is another reason why it's stretching reality, because it's not known whether it be true, but you could see how, like, killing an animal 65 million years in the past would also kill all the descendants that animal would have had if it wasn't killed. And then all the effects of that, the effects on the food chain, and how through time that one small event could drastically change the future. And for the Queen of Spades, cards are personified into humans. There's a lot of hinting and imagery that the Countess takes the form of the Queen of Spades, and that's the reason why he sees the card winking at him, mocking him for betting on the wrong card and losing his fortune. At one point when he's walking down the street, he thinks that a skinny woman resembles the Three of Hearts, and the final scene, or the final part of the Queen of Spades where he's betting on the third card, and there's all the generals around him and the servants. That can also be seen as cards being personified into humans, because the generals are all kings because they have the most power there, and the servants are jacks because they're serving everyone at the table. It also is questionable whether he's actually seeing the woman in white and the Countess winking at him, or the card winking at him, or if it's just his imagination. He's not explicitly told, or the reader isn't explicitly told, whether these elements are reality or fantasy. And there's also a question of, is it karma, or is the Countess getting revenge on him for him making the final mistake of betting on the wrong card, even though he knew the ace was the winning card. He bet on the Queen of Spades. And this is my works cited. So in conclusion, the three reasons that these two short stories represent the quote by C.S. Lewis is the fact that they both stretch reality. They show the consequences of our actions, and also that they have fantasy elements which add to reality and enrich it.